Well, we're here in Davos. It is part of the Davos Diaries. Who better than Hitachi, India's Bharat Kaushal, to talk to? They, of course, do businesses around the world and they're heavily bullish on India's infrastructure story. So let's chat with Bharat a little bit more about India's future. Bharat, welcome to ET Now. Thank you so much for your time. Well, you operate across verticals, right? Energy, rail, digital, manufacturing. What are you most excited about?
I think India itself is such a unique story, which is building physical and digital infrastructure at the same time. And the quantum of that, if you can get with that affordability and scalability done at speed, maybe Government of India is spending about $35 to $40 billion in power sector every year. And the dimensions of power being a vertical has also transformed into being a horizontal, touching every aspect of economy and even society. And in rail, there is about $45–50 billion of opportunity coming every year. So what can be more exciting that you not just take care of the legacy infrastructure, the asset classes, but also about building the newer infrastructure. I think two things that have transformed in India in the last 10 odd years: implementation and consciousness of quality. So money is getting utilized, and the same is true even for the Japan-India economic engagement. We've been on it for maybe 20–30 years, but in the last 10 years, you've seen utilization of bigger Japan into the India story.
So out of all the verticals that you operate in, and let's get a little myopic and short-term over here, which vertical or business do you think is right now at the scale-up moment?
I think from a balance sheet building perspective, energy and rail provide the best opportunity. Because energy is building the physical infrastructure, the big HVDC lines, each one is over $1 billion at least. And then you're also coming to the medium and low voltage business, where there are smart grids and charging stations, storage solutions with artificial intelligence to prevent losses when renewable energy goes from base load to peak load. Similarly in railway, if you look at the cost to income ratio, which may be 97–98%, you can save 25% just on maintenance by predicting it early. And at the same time, you're busy with superior rail control systems to provide enhanced safety, more predictability in rail travel, and a greater experience for the people. So, like energy, digital is also a big horizontal across these asset classes. The first generation of bigger digital story came with aggregators, where e-commerce and a lot of those things got influenced. Now, as they, like the Disney versus Netflix debate, the aggregators and the asset classes are moving. And so you're imagining energy as a service, mobility as a service, and so on.
So you think energy is going to be it?
I think energy, we already have built a believable story. We're amongst maybe the largest energy transmission company. Railway, we are in urban mobility, we are in the Indian Railway modernization, we are also in the high-speed business, but we are also working very closely in providing the right digital tools to link up an ecosystem where the asset class and the user experience are both imagined in the same chain.
But tell me, because at the group level you're a global conglomerate, from Japan's perspective, how central is India to Hitachi's global growth strategy, say, over the next decade?
Well, Hitachi has been 90-year-old in India, and the first steam locomotive in 1953 in post-independent India came from Hitachi. The first telephone exchange came in 1955. The turbines of Bhakra Nangal in 58 came from Hitachi.
Wow.
So there's been a very strong legacy and commitment. But what we see now in India is an opportunity to build an identity which is not just doing business in India for India, which has been the conventional model, but also from India to the rest of the world. Because the competitiveness and the quality consciousness of India is going to render that capability to our standing.
India is pushing hard on infrastructure and energy transition, like you rightly mentioned. Where do you think your next big opportunity is going to come in from, which will be revenue accretive?
I think I have mentioned briefly about the service business in energy and in rail. But you know, service business grows at a certain speed and it's more a OPEX model. So even when I go 500% in service business, but get $1.5 billion deal on the balance sheet, it still appears to be like 1% of my whole story. So, but the consciousness is that you improve an IRR over a period of time. This is life cycle cost of an infrastructure. It doesn't mean what you just sold and what you just maintained. It's from it the tentacles fly to build an ecosystem which will keep generating revenue for you.
But tell me, you did talk about, how Japan sees India right now in terms of businesses. How aligned are Japanese capital expenditure policies to India's needs right now?
See, Japan has a very big advantage of not just superior technology, but also of long-term money. And in India, we were 87% of bank deposits were less than 5 years because of savings bank and intergenerational transfer. So one is to bring longer term money. The other is to credit enhance the risk that India presents, because now the Indian story is better understood. It takes a while, 10-15 years to build it. We have come to that point. And as India builds more new infrastructure, I think the Japanese engagement utilization from the last 10 years, maybe in 2022 they committed $42 billion. Most of it is already utilized by 2025. So another $100 billion, including with private sector, is now committed. And I'm confident that, this economic engagement is going to become, in the whole maze of geostrategic transition, still a defining opportunity for both countries.
Does that become a dampener, all that's happening in the world right now, and the kind of supply chain disruptions that it may be